at the end of the day here, I think we've got a really good closing speaker in Kevin. And Kevin's been really helpful to me over the last few months based in Communitech as the Chief Technology Officer in Residence.
That's
there.
it.
And his job there is to help out startups and advise them and mentor them and point them in the right direction. And he's also helped out, last term he helped out a couple of the students in Velocity as well with their projects. And so he's been very helpful in that respect. And Kevin has a lot of experience with a variety of companies. And most importantly, he's got 2 degrees from UW.
3 actually.
3?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I snuck another one in there.
Mechanical engineering, graduate degrees, plural, yeah. In mechanical and PhD in electrical.
Yep. Yep.
PhD in electrical. So 3 degrees from Waterloo. It's a big round of applause for Kevin.
I'm not sure I deserve the round of applause for being silly enough to stick around for 3 degrees at Waterloo, but anyways, that's we'll leave that as it is. And also my wife is a UW math graduate, so there we go. It's Waterlooites through and through. So anyways, thank you for the opportunity, Sean. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to you guys today. Quite looking forward to it. Now, I'm trying to do without the microphone. I've got a little bit of a cold going on here, and I had a splitting headache this morning, but I am medicated. So, you know, anything I say, you know, if it's off the mark, I can blame the medication. If it's anything that is controversial against what Jackie or Gary or Canal said, then it's all because of the medication. You can't blame me. So anyways, I'll start out a little bit about me, so you got a sort of a data point on who I am, and that gives you sort of a perspective on some of the things that I'm going to talk about specifically in the lessons learned. I'm going to give you a Communitech overview too. As Sean mentioned, I'm a CTO in residence over there, part of the venture support group. And we've got a lot of good things going on. I think there's some things there that you guys could tap into, should be aware of. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of that at the end. So a little bit about me. First of all, I don't like to talk about myself. So I'm going to really try hard not to talk about myself. I have been known to be stubborn. You can ask my wife and my kids about that. I don't need to hear myself talk in a meeting. So it's really, for me, it's just all about trying to relay the message. I won't flower it. I'll try to give you some real life perspective or real life examples to some of the lessons that I've learned. Currently reading 274 things you should know about Winston Churchill. First of all, who knows Winston Churchill? Oh, few, good. And then my next books, I'm going to read something on assassinations because I'm kind of into the old JFK Camelot period. Something about economics, the Crusades, and infinity. So I don't know what that says about me. I guess I'm pretty scattered, but what the heck? That's what you're in for this afternoon. So, another little bit of tidbit about me. The name Tuer, I bet you didn't know, actually means door in German. It's the French verb for to kill. And in Italian, it means absolutely nothing. So anyways, that's got nothing to do with my talk, but I just find that kind of interesting. So, let's talk a little bit about where I've come from, what I've sort of done over the last few years. Been more than a couple. So as mentioned, I've got a couple degrees, all from University of Waterloo. Yay! So we've got how many engineers in the room? How many math in the room? How many other in the room? Wow, we got quite a smattering. So that's good. Married with 4 kids. Very happy. Works out very good. I've worked in a combination of large and small companies, and that's where I draw a lot of my perspective from. I'm working with a lot of small companies now in my role as CTO in residence, and that brings another perspective to what I do. I've been a variety of things from, well, you can see the list of things there. If I'd have known that Tech Capital actually did the toilet paper restocking, I wouldn't have had to take on that job, but, you know, well, things you learn after the fact. I've been involved, you know, obviously I've got a very technical background, so I've been involved in what I consider fairly cool things, you know. Everything from developing what was called an advanced fire control computer for a main battle tank for the Canadian military, to systems for visually impaired users, for software products, hardware products, quite a wide variety from both sort of the engineer level and also from the management level. So through that's given me a lot to see, a lot of experiences to have. And another thing I did nearly expire as a result of an operation on the brain aneurysm, so if I start to twitch every once in a while, that's probably because of the lack of oxygen. So, oh, and if, you know, I'd encourage anybody to leave their phone on, so that if I do fall over, 911 is much easier and quicker to dial. So, I'm kidding, I'm not going to go. All right. So entrepreneurship, let's get on to entrepreneurship. How many in the room think they're entrepreneurs? I better see every hand. No? All right. Okay, let's delve into that. What is entrepreneurship? How many think you're born with it? Nobody thinks you're born with being an entrepreneur? How about it's something that you learn? Okay, what are the options? I'm not sure what the other options are, but okay. All right, no, this is good, this is good. All right, for those of you who said you're entrepreneurs, what's driving you? Is it fame, fortune, or is it just the need to create and accomplish? And I guess these are more rhetorical questions, and I don't have the answers to them. I think it can be different for everyone. But, you know, there's obviously, I think the key element is that there's a drive, whether it's something that's genetic, whether it's something that's learned or whatever. I mean, that's a key part of entrepreneurship. And is it a journey or destination? I personally believe it's more of a journey than it is a destination. And there's a lot of things to be learned on that journey. So anyways, let's sort of delve into what goes on. So I'm going to focus more so on sort of the lessons learned or the experiences that I've had over my few years of experience. Not in any particular order, but what I find is that in some cases the entrepreneurial lessons learned aren't so much different from life lessons learned. I think in many cases they're inextricably connected. And, you know, it defines who you are, and it's important to know that. So anyways, let's move on. But, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't say a little bit of a warning before we move on. Hopefully everybody's over 18, so any of the content that you may see from this point won't be offensive, or I won't get nasty phone calls or anything. Your discretion is strongly advised. And I have changed the names, or chose to admit the names of companies of individuals to protect both the innocent and the guilty. So let's move on. So first of all, market or a pain is a necessary thing to have. And I'm sure Gary spoke about it. I'm sure he did. I hope he did. Jackie, I heard her speak about it. And really, I think it's more about pain than it is market. And what I'm saying about that is I look at technologies or companies as being able, creating an incremental improvement in something or an incremental technology, or I consider it a disruptive technology. And sort of the difference that I look at between those is with an incremental technology, you can clearly define what your value proposition is. You know what it is. It's more productivity, it's quicker, it's faster, it's better performance, whatever. But then there's this thing called disruptive technology, and it's sort of, you know, there's this pain out there, there's nothing out there quite like it, and you're out there to conquer this one. And sometimes I think the disruptive technologies get a little bit of a bad rap because they're misconstrued for it's a technology looking for a market, or it's a solution looking for a problem. And I mean, that can occur. I mean, you have to be careful in defining it, but if, you know, 15, 20 years ago, if RIM decided that it needed to be an incremental technology before they move it forward, nobody would have a BlackBerry on their hip these days. So, you know, there are some people out there, there's some companies in town right now that are out there trying to create their market segment, or create a new market segment. And it's valid, but obviously there's a lot more risk associated with it. But that's, you know, that's something that has to be defined, and it's about knowing, you know, what side of the fence it is that you reside in that regard. And one of the ones that I quite like is beware of the market survey of one. Again, I don't know if Gary mentioned that this morning or not, but in what I do as an entrepreneur in residence at Communitech, obviously I see a lot of companies come through, and one of the first things they ask is, do you like it? Would you buy it? I said, well, yeah, I guess I like it, or no, I really can't stand it, but that doesn't matter. I mean, that's a market survey of one. You really need to look beyond a market survey of one. Don't move forward on a market survey of one. And I'm sure Gary covered a lot of the different things that you need to do from a market perspective this morning in his talk. And it's extremely important, and I think it's fairly obvious why it's important. So make sure, you know, look for the pain points. Pain points are a good thing to try to solve. And if you've got to create the market sector to do that, so be it. Understand it's a balance of risk. Lesson number 2, focus. Establishing the beachhead or that first customer. is obviously very crucial. As Jackie said in her talk, you know, one of the first things they're going to do in doing their due diligence is go out and talk to your potential customers. Who are they? What is it they like about it? Do they like it? Will they use it? Is it valuable or not? Kill the white rabbits. Any Alice in Wonderland fans out there? Oh, good, we got at least one. So what I mean by the white rabbits is, you know, especially when you have a technology that's got multiple applications in multiple markets. You may be well focused on looking down this particular path, trying to figure out the value proposition for a specific market. And then, you know, one day you read something in the newspaper that this other market segment is picking up steam and everything like that. And the tendency is, you know, especially if things, you know, your market research isn't working out so well for your selected market, you may say, I'm going to go chase that one for a while. That seems like a more lucrative market. I think there's, you know, I can get that low-hanging fruit and get there a lot quicker. Maybe the case may not be the case, but what you have to be careful not to do is chase every white rabbit that may come your way. It's important to know, it's important to evaluate, but just don't chase it because it looks like it's a great opportunity and the CTV or the Globe and Mail or whoever says it's the next great, biggest thing since sliced bread. And maintain flexibility to react to market conditions and opportunities. Because especially in the world that you guys are living in terms of sort of the technologies and the companies that you're looking to start, things can change very quickly and very rapidly. So it's important to keep a finger on the pulse of what the market's all about and what it's doing, and be prepared to change. Jackie mentioned Sandvine this morning. They picked an application, but you know, they went a long way along the road and they found out it wasn't it. They switched midway through and they went on to something else and became successful. But you know what? They had to react to the market conditions at the time. And it's important to do that or else you can get caught. Now one other thing, I got some videos here and I'm going to let my friends speak for me. Not through satellite link, but through CAN video anyways. And they're going to talk about, you know, in this case it's about lead customer. Yeah, question.
How do you know whether you're reacting to the market conditions or whether you're chasing the white rabbit?
Well, that's an excellent question. And, you know, I'd say it's all about the market research. Because if you look at sort of superficial information and make decisions on superficial information, then you got to be careful. But the white rabbit, I mean, the thing you're chasing could very well be the beachhead that you're looking for. But don't, again, not just, you know, you read an article or you heard somebody say that this is going to happen or, gee, you should be looking at this. You know, maintain the focus. Do your market research. And at the end of the market research, you may find, you know what, this isn't the sector that I should be going after. There is something else I should be looking at. And then that white rabbit might turn into sort of your golden eagle. So I should mention too, if there are any questions along the way, please feel free to interrupt. So I'll see if I can get this working. Yeah. So this is one of my colleagues at Communitech talking about the lead customer.
Communitech with Dan Hathers. So lead customers, you say you've got to get it right the first time. And it's a tough thing. Trying to get a lead customer is hard enough. But getting it right the first time. So let's start with the issue of how you get your first customer. If you're out there in the marketplace, you have no relationships, no references. You're really not sure exactly what the customer is looking for every time. So how do you get your first customer?
Well, you know, it's all about having an idea that's interesting. Because you got to do research a little bit first, right? And figure out what the customer pain points are for whatever segment you're going after. Once you understand the customer pain points, you can go and think about what possible solutions you have for them. Many times, your initial idea is actually one of building a business or finding a customer.
In fact, the stats say that 97% of successful exits by VCs are for something different than what the investor did. And that is a real fact. So it changes the whole way along.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So as a lead customer, how do you approach
approach them without a reference? Well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of ways that you can get to customers. One is through networking. So, everyone talks about 6 degrees of separation. So, somebody knows somebody knows somebody. Through LinkedIn, through trade associations, through working with entrepreneurs and residents. You've got many years' experience with the market. The way that we've done it in the past, a lot of times, is through word of mouth or connections that somebody on the team has. But generally, you'll find that there's somebody who knows the value of the PhD.
Okay, so you got a customer. How can you differentiate between the right and the wrong customer?
Well, a lot of it has to do with momentum again. When you make an announcement that you've signed up a guy who everyone respects, then you've got momentum. When you make an announcement that you're working with the wrong guy or somebody that everybody says, big deal, those guys aren't really going to be going anywhere, then you're judged really by the company that you keep. So you're kind of guilty by association. So getting the right customer allows you to engage up through the entire development process, your product concept, your product development. They make an excellent reference for investors. So, for example, obviously when you raise money, it's really, really helpful to be able to say to the potential investor, hey, if you don't believe me about how great my product is, maybe you should go and talk to this guy. And if that's a brand new company, then automatically the investors think, this is something that I want to be involved with.
So there was some interesting, there was an interesting statistic that 97%, I think, of VC-backed companies didn't end with what they started doing. So that just goes to show it's not necessarily bad to change, but what you need to do is you need to do your homework, you need to do your market research, but you need to focus, you need to validate or invalidate that opportunity. So it's, again, focus is key to doing that. Now this is one of my favorites, and I'll probably end up spending a little bit more time on this particular lesson than anything else. And that's really centers around culture. And I mean the company culture, and it can take many facets. But essentially, it's basically the people within your company, what's important to the company. What's important, how do you treat your employees? How do you treat your board of directors? How do you treat your customers? And I think it's often overlooked, and I don't think many talk about it. Jackie talked about the management team and the management team being right. And to me, taking that one step further is part about making sure that the management team is right, is making sure that they adopt a good culture for the company. Because if you don't, what happens is, if you're spending your time internally trying to deal with personality battles or conflicts between your team, what time does that leave you to actually go out and fight the battles that are facing you externally from your customer perspective, your competitor perspective? So culture is pretty key. And again, I've got another video here. This person looks probably very familiar. It's just that I think his voice is a little stronger than mine is right now. So.
Good afternoon. I know I'm not supposed to say that because you could be watching in the morning or the evening, but in any case, welcome to Communitech in the lovely city of Waterloo. I'm here with Tuer, who's an entrepreneur in residence at the Accelerator Center, as part of Communitech.
This is the only way to make a presentation.
He's experiences as an entrepreneur. So you said culture is important, it's crucial for the success in an organization. So how do you find culture? Because everybody talks about culture differently. I have one way of thinking of it, other people think otherwise.
And maybe my definition of culture doesn't fit the norm either, but for me, it's about, simply stated, it's about getting along and having common goals. And quite often, I find situations, and I've been involved with situations where individuals were not on the same page in terms of what the roles were, in terms of what the goals for the company were. The handshake, we did it right. And I give a lot of credit to one of the founders who came from the University of Waterloo, who was at the University of Waterloo. He set the culture for the business. And it was all about people getting along, again, being on the same page in terms of what role responsibilities are, same page in terms of where the company needs to go, and also understanding that we can't do everything, that we have limitations in our skill set. And we point out to them that we be quite frank with one another, honestly, with the fact was.
So, is the culture of something like Handshake very much different than all the larger companies?
I think by necessity it has to be. With larger companies, I think what you find is you might have pockets of culture. And we like to think that that's unified within the culture of the company as a whole. Within small companies, if you can't withstand pockets of different pockets of culture. If somebody doesn't have a mind share, somebody's dropping the ball, you know what? Pick it up. You gotta get going. You gotta be shoulder to shoulder in the trenches, because when it comes to those late nights and those long hours and those impossible deadlines that you have to meet, if you can't trust that the person that beside you is going to remain beside you, I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do.
So you've been in places where culture doesn't work. What's it feel like?
To be in a place where there's wrong culture it's just, there's always the potential for conflict. And I find when you're busy fighting internal fires, it makes it extremely difficult to deal with external fires that are always raging. Things that a small company has to deal with on a daily basis. So if the culture's not right internally, you're wasting a lot of energy internally, but you should be focusing on external.
So you'll terminate, you'll fire people for non-fit.
You have to. You really have no choice. Because to let that culture reign within the organization, especially small organizations, again, you're just going to suck up too much resources that really should be focused externally.
Gee, I couldn't have said it better myself. Okay, and so, just sort of extending or going a little the next step to that, I mean, culture doesn't just happen. It really does have to be engineered. It's something that you have to start right from the beginning. Start with your, it starts with your partners. It starts with your first hires. It starts with the rest of your hires. As you get bigger and as you get, then you tend to lose control a little bit over what that culture is, because you're not going to be part of every single interview that the team does. But if you instill the culture within your management team, then what's going to happen is it's going to flow down. That doesn't mean that every hire is going to be the right hire. And at times, you do have to make the decision, and you do have to let people go for various reasons. So, but again, as a small company, you need to be able to do that. And it's all about hiring the right people for the job. And that's part of the culture. I'm going to get into a little bit later, but the whole fact or the concept of nepotism doesn't really necessarily fit. I mean, if you can find people that fit the job and they're related to you and you get along well, then that's great. I mean, that's a bonus. But, you can't say, get these bunch of people together and say, we're going to go do this, and find that everybody's good at being a technical manager, but nobody's good at being a business manager, blah, blah, blah. If you have that situation, you got to make sure you fill those gaps as you move along, because it's necessary. So this is one of my favorite videos from a commercial. Oh,
okay, the presentation's tomorrow, so let's make sure we all know our usual responsibilities. Jeff, you keep feeding the old information. Dean, I need you to continue not living up to your resume. Sue, you're in charge of authoring.
Are you sure?
Jerome, you're talking big game, then do nothing. But Stuart, Rick, can you fold under pressure for me?
Like a launcher.
And Ted, you just keep thinking everyone's out to get you.
There.
I'll get FedEx Kinko's, where they'll help me design, print, copy, and finish the proposal.
Put your presentations together at FedEx Kinko's. Make it, print it, pack it, ship it. Our office is your office.
So there you go. There's your ideal team. And also, I guess, striving to hire people that are smarter than you. Understanding with this group that might be difficult, but it's all about, putting together the right team and the right people, and not being afraid that somebody that you hire might, be able to do something better than you do. Because I've often thought, if I hire people that are smarter than me, then I can be the biggest screw up in the world, but my team's going to make me look good. And it's not necessarily completely true, but The point of the matter is good people are going to make you look good, bad people are going to make you look bad. So, you know, you're going to hire the right people. We already talked a little bit about the nepotism, but you want to make your workplace a fun place as well. And that's all part of the culture. And things that we did, you know, to incentivize our people is, you know, when they went above and beyond what they did, we made sure we rewarded them with small things like gift certificates to movies or for dinner out or something like that. It's a recognition that they've stepped up above and beyond. It can't possibly match the value that they put in, but the token recognition, I find, can go a long way. In fact, it may go further than just, you know, purely a financial reward for doing what they did. And keeping communication lines open, and I'm going to go into that a little bit later on another slide, but again, working with your friends can be challenging. And I've been in the situation where a friend of mine and I went to work for a company, and I ended up being his boss. And it just got difficult. I mean, because, you know, you've got that friendship there, and all of a sudden, if you sort of put in that form of authority, then that makes it a challenge. And there's other companies that I've been working with through my role in Communitech, where a bunch of friends that got together, and, you know, and good friends, they all came out of university together, and one of them had to be the CEO. And it just, if everybody was on the same page, it's fine, but they never really seemed to jive with that. And so when it came time to exercise authority, it wasn't there. And if you don't have that, you need the leader for your company. In the end, somebody has to make decisions. And often it's, you know, you can do it by committee, but in the end it comes down to an individual, and that's your CEO. And if they don't have the buy-in from the rest of the team, you know, it's just going to make it a little bit more difficult to deal with. So, anyways, how much time? I guess I'm... Patent prudently. And this is about, again, Jackie talked about it, and she said I was interested to hear her answer about whether VCs expect patents or not to do funding. I think I heard her answer was not necessarily, and that's good. But what I found, and again, I've seen a lot of companies come, and what they do is they've got a technology, they believe it's unique, and what they do is they set out to patent it. And I'm saying, well, don't just set out to patent it. Develop an intellectual property protection strategy, of which patenting can be one of those elements. There's patenting, there's copyright, there's trade secret, there's a variety of things by which you can protect your intellectual property. Don't automatically assume that you have to go out and patent. And the reason being, patenting can be very expensive, extremely expensive. I think RIM quoted that over a lifetime of patent costs about $100,000. And that's, you know, that's to get it filed and issued, and I have a feeling there's some litigation in there as well. I think they know a little bit about the litigation side of things. But in the end, it's a very costly endeavor. And like Jackie said with the Web 2.0 stuff, it's a difficult thing to patent. Software is a difficult thing to patent. So trade secret is a very valid way to do it, or just time to market is a very valid way to approach it. And depending on what you're doing, you know, the strategy might be different. But I'm saying, instead of just setting out to patent, why don't you set out to develop an intellectual property strategy and make sure it aligns with your business goals? Because if they don't, then at some point the two are going to diverge, and again, all of a sudden you spent this cash for nothing because all of a sudden it doesn't align with what your business goals were. And we got that answered, so I don't need to go into that any further. Financing options. Again, Jackie obviously knows much more about it than I do, but it does really depend on what type of company you are, what stage your company is at. Bootstrapping is a very valid way to do it. I mean, it's a valid way to go. Again, with software plays these days, it doesn't take a lot of cash in many regards to get to a point where you can release a product. And that provides you the ability to bootstrap more often, you know, more so than if you've got a hardware play or you've got something that's more cost intensive. And there's a time for angel investment. There is a very active angel community around Waterloo. Maybe not as active as it was maybe a year ago, but there are some people who are out there that very actively not only invest, but they also become actively engaged with the companies. And they add a lot of value. And, you know, it's something to consider. And then, you know, if you're ready for venture capital and it aligns with what the venture capitalist goals are and what you need to do, Venture capital is a good way to go too. But don't be hesitant, or always look at ways in which to leverage funding that's non-equity based. So what I mean by that is there are grants out there. Ontario Centres of Excellence, who's familiar with Ontario Centres of Excellence? So a few of you. So Ontario Centres of Excellence is a provincial organization that provides funding for commercialization of technology that's based out of a university. And they've got a number of programs to help you do that. Something to look into, because again, you give up this much equity when you use those funds. And there's things like IRAP, it's Industrial Research Assistance Program. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of money right now, but in April, that's hopefully will change. And there's this little critter called SR&ED, Scientific Research and Experimental Development. It's a tax credit program, but what it happens is for early stage companies, then they will give you, I think, up to 40 or 45% refund on eligible research and development activities. So that translates to a pre-revenue company as cash back in the bank. And again, for zero equity. So anything that you can do from a perspective to leverage, a non-zero equity funding, do it. With Handshake, I think we raised well over $1 million in non-equity based funding. And again, to give that up as equity would have been a big difference in what was going on. And if there's, I guess maybe this is more of a venture capital point than it is maybe angel or bootstrapping, but if you think you need X dollars, my guess is you're going to need X plus delta. And delta is far greater than zero. I know I like the math play, I get that in there a little bit. There's no limit. So the point of the matter is, like Jackie said, don't go in and say you have a $5 million valuation and they're going to give you 10. Because what that means is that effectively you're going to get less cash for what you give up in your company. So if cash is at the table, again, be aware that you're probably going to need more than you think. Even though you go through a very careful budgeting process, you're probably going to need more than you think. And if it's there, think hard about taking it when it's there for you. Open, honest communication. We just went through a strategic planning session at Communitech, and this was identified as one of our goals, to have open, honest communication. I think, well, what else would you have? What does that mean? It's a vague thing. But I've come to appreciate that there is, a lot of value in this, and it goes. It can be from your board to your employees to your partners to your customers. And one thing I've seen happen, and fairly recently with the company that I'm working with, is there was some bad news that was sort of flowing down, and they chose to not tell their board about it because they figured they were going to fix it over the next couple months, and then when they had their next board meeting, they would have been back where they should be, and then, all these bad negative feelings were avoided. Didn't work out that way. And the board found out, and now, it's erected a wall between the company and the board of directors. So, heard it said many times, and I still believe in it, honesty is still the best principle. And you need to do that. And, right down to your employees, too. You don't need to tell them everything about the business, but one thing that I've always strived to do is, when good times are good, tell them. When bad times aren't so good, you got to tell them, too. The last thing you want to do is find out in the morning paper that things didn't go so well and they're out of a job. But if you talk to them, you keep them up to date, they're going to feel more of a part of the company as well. They're going to feel like it's more of a family. And so, be honest. It doesn't mean you have to pass out the balance sheet and the cash flow statements every month and share that with everybody. But, be upfront with what you do. And another interesting little video. Has anybody seen this? Okay. think that was a tipping point. Notice how everybody came in to help? Like, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I think this guy's got some issues. I'm just not sure. So, you know, keep a pulse on what's going on with your employees, because you never know when someone's going to try and photocopy their monitor. I guess I should speed it up here, so I'll try and get through a little bit of this stuff a little bit quicker. Networking is one of the very good ways to create relationships. And especially these days with things like corporate social networking sites like LinkedIn and Plaxo and Facebook, it's much easier to network than it has been in the past. And if you really want to find out how these tools can be used to network effectively, talk to Jackie Murphy, because she is amazing. Like, she's the Twitter, Facebooker extraordinaire. And I don't know where she finds it. I think she Twitters at all hours of the day, and don't know when she sleeps, but she'll Twitter about that too. But use these tools to your advantage, because there's there's a lot of them around, and it's amazing. I firmly believe in the 6 degrees of separation, and with things like LinkedIn, you're really, often I think you're only 3 away from who you really need to get to. Partnerships, exploiting partnerships, and it used to be finding a partner was a good thing to try and get your business going. Partnerships now are almost a necessary thing to get your business going. And you can look at partnerships from a variety of different perspectives, whether it be sales and marketing, or it would be synergistic platform partnerships. And it can often accelerate the whole process of you getting your product to market. And one of the things we did during Entrepreneur Week at Communitech is we had this strategic partnering day. So what we did is we brought in representatives of Google, Microsoft, RIM, Yahoo, and somebody else. I always forget number 5. Anyways, we had 5 representatives, and they started off the day by presenting what their partnership programs are about. But then we had each of them meet with 6 companies from the region. One-on-one meetings, 30-minute meetings, to talk about their product and what they do. And most of the companies, as well as the partners, found this extremely valuable. And to the point where a handful of those companies have now accelerated their relationships with these companies to the point where they're getting close to a partnership. So, and again, it's, talking about the Web 2.0 stuff in terms of sometimes it's difficult to monetize what you're offering, especially with partners like Google and Microsoft and Yahoo. Then, if you can get those partnership meetings going, you're in a great position to try and get things moving ahead, and your most likely exit strategy is through acquisition. But to get in front of those partners, to do it conventional ways can be a long time. I mean, we've got RIM in town, and people come to me and say, well, can you get me into RIM to talk about the specific issue? Well, you know what? In some cases, people from Europe might have a better chance of getting into RIM than I do. It's just because they're across the street doesn't mean it's any easier for me to get in to see them. But again, if you take care, if you look at partnerships and you look at opportunities in order to get one-on-one interface with them, it can really get things going. Checking emotions at the door. I mean, it pretty much is as it says. I mean, you want to be passionate about what you do. You really don't want emotions to enter into some of the decisions that you have to make, whether it's, who you hire, whether the technology has a life or not, whether the product has a life or not, things of that sort. You really need to try and separate the two. But again, this is sort of the parallel between life lessons and entrepreneurial lessons, is it's sometimes difficult to do. But try to be objective about when you make your decisions. And make use of mentors, because one of the things that mentors can do is they can be that sounding board for you. They can be that reason check for you. So you can go to them and say what your situation is, and they can tell you whether you're drinking your own Kool-Aid or not. And it's important to have that capability. So, especially what I've found in the Waterloo region compared to some of the other regions in Canada, especially in the US, is that we're very collaborative here. We're very willing to help each other out. And so to get a mentor isn't all that difficult. To get somebody that you can talk to you can share ideas with is actually relatively easy to do here. And that's part of what we do as part of the venture support group at Communitech, is we're here to help be that sounding board as one of the things that we can do for you, or make connections for you, or help you to get to that customer or that that one partner that you need to get to. And it's something mentors can be, and some of them may end up being very good friends at the end of it all. And I've heard of people who have sort of stuck with their mentors throughout, and they've got a 20-year relationship because of it, but still respect the fact that they can separate the relationship and still be your mentor and tell you where it's at. Beware of founderitis. Anybody heard of founderitis before? I'm not sure if it's a catching thing or not, but things like, you can see them up there, but it's really being so interested in your business. It's your baby. It's understood that you've got a degree of attachment to it, but it sort of goes in line with checking your emotions at the door. Is things like, well, I know my business better than anybody else. Who are they to tell me what I should be doing? People have some great ideas. You really should listen to them. Jackie's favorite, I don't want to give up that much equity. So it's, you heard, well, do you want a smaller piece of a bigger pie or a bigger piece of nothing? And that's really what you got to look at. What's important to you? And it goes back to, do you want it to, you're your lifestyle entrepreneur or you're a VC type entrepreneur? Sometimes you got to give up in order to get bigger and to grow to the extent that you want to do. And believe it or not, this last one is an actual quote from somebody. I've yet to meet my intellectual equal in business, and well, their business has been going on for a very long time. They don't have any VC funded. I mean, go figure. But you got to be aware of these things, and you got to be, you got to put things in perspective. And it's all out of the need to keep control, and you got to get away from the fact that technology rules and everything else will just follow. And again, I think that's changing. I admit I fell into that, geez, great technology, of course, everybody will want it. The market will follow. I've got the technology, nothing else matters. Doesn't always necessarily mean that's the case, so keep it in perspective. Dealing with service providers. And by service providers, I mean your accountants, your lawyers, the ones absolutely necessary there to help you grow your business and move your business along. But this is something that was told to me a number of years ago, and it was, don't be held hostage by your service providers. Because often when you're launching a business, you're getting going, sometimes your first connections are your accountants and your lawyers, because you know what? They know everybody else. So you go to them, and guess what? They show interest in what you're doing. And all of a sudden you've created a relationship, and they're going to do these things for you. And so you think, this is great, somebody likes what I'm doing. This is wonderful. But what happens is, if you let things go along unchecked, what can happen is, what they don't tell you is, in the background, their bill is growing and growing and growing. And they're not asking to be paid right now. But when your first financing comes along, they say, oh, by the way, you owe us $150,000 in patenting. Okay. Why didn't you tell me that before? And guess what your angel investors or your VC investors going to say if they learn that off the top of their investment, they've got to throw $150,000 at a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. They don't like it. I can attest to that. That's not a good thing to do. So it's about managing them. It's about establishing relationships. It's about not assuming that they're doing things for you for free. Because guess what? Their model is not to do it free. That's not how they stay in business. So work with them. Be upfront with them. Make sure they're upfront with you. Make sure that you don't have this nasty bill ticking along in the background that's going to come haunt you the first time you do an investment. Keep an open mind. One of the things that I think sometimes we dismiss people's ideas because either we don't think they have the experience, or they're way too young, or they're way too old, or something of that sort. Keep an open mind, listen to them, because it's amazing the ideas that you can get from people to get you out of sticky situations, or to show you to go in, or put you in a direction that you maybe never would have thought of before. So keep the open mind, because and they don't even have to be a technologist. It could be a conversation that you have in the grocery store, in the line at the grocery store. And that goes back to networking. I mean, tell people what you're doing. And it's amazing the connections that can be made. Keep an open mind. You never know where it can go. And I like to point out that skepticism and pessimism are not the same thing. Pessimism is not good. Skepticism is healthy. It's good to question. It's good to wonder why. And it's good because that forces you to go and get the answers and substantiate your answers. And the one thing that certainly becoming more pertinent these days is these multi-generational workplaces and the differences between the Gen Xers and the Gen Ys and the Boomers and the traditionalists. And you're going to, chances are, as your business grow, you're going to have a multi-generational workforce. And there's going to be personality clashes. And it doesn't mean that your culture's going down the tube. It just means you're going to have to learn to work with these people because, you know what, the Gen Yers, which I think most of you guys here in the room are going to have different ideas and different way to approach things than maybe the Boomers or even the Gen Xers. But that doesn't mean they're wrong. It's just a new way to approach it. Keep the open mind and take it into consideration. But finally, I mean, you really need to love what you do. And I think everybody is here participating in Velocity and doing what you're doing because you love what you're doing. And, you know, it's important to be able to do that. And, you know, it has to stay fun. And you want to make sure that the people you're involved with are going to be there for you as you move forward. Your partners are there for you. And they share your passion and your love for what you do. And one of the things that I remember when I first got into university and we had the first year engineering project that we had to do. So they arbitrarily put us into groups of 4, and I thought, this is going to be an excellent experience because I remember back in high school, we'd get into groups of 4, 2 people would do the work and the other 2 would just screw up, and anyways, they'd get the same mark, and it just, I won't tell you which 2 that I was in, but anyways, you get into university, I thought, excellent, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who think exactly the same way I am. We're going to kick ass on this. Oops, I was supposed to say that. We're really going to go ahead on this project. And it didn't work out that way. You know, I assumed it, but it was the same sort of deal. It was about a 50-50 split. And when you're there, I mean, it's about mind share. And when you're in the business, it's magnified and it's amplified. Because if you're there and you're putting everything you've got into this, and your business partner goes home at 5 to watch movies for the rest of the night, well, how's that going to make you feel? A couple nights here and there, okay, that's great. But if that goes on, it's going to eat you up. It's going to be sort of a plague that's going to eat you up if you think that I'm putting all this time and effort into doing this and my buddy's at home watching TV or doing this or doing that, not contributing to the business. And, you know, making sure that you've got that mind share there is absolutely important. We talked about that, and balance. One thing that, as I mentioned, I've got a few kids at home. And one thing that I decided right early on is that I needed to keep the balance between my family and my business. So what I did is I said, okay, especially when my kids were younger, they'd be in bed by 8 o'clock, and I'd say, you know what, I got to leave this office at 5 so that I can drive home to Stratford to be there by 6. So I've got a couple hours with them before they go to bed. And then after 8 o'clock, I'll pull out my laptop and I'll continue on. To do that, I'd say, well, I'm not really a morning person, but I said, I'm going to be at the office by 7 every morning because that's going to be my trade-off because that's what's important to me. The kids are still in bed at 7 o'clock anyways. They couldn't care less. But at night, I wanted to make sure I spent time with them. And you know what? You need that balance because if you don't have that balance, again, it's going to eat you up. You can maybe do that for a little while, but if you know, you're into a business and it's taken you multiple years to get that business going and flourishing, you got to have that balance or it's going to come back to haunt you. So anyways, those are sort of the lessons I've learned along the way. I could probably speak at length about any one of them a little bit more, but what I'm going to do now is just a couple slides on Communitech. And just a show of hands, who's heard of Communitech? Okay, a fairly good number. So we started out as a technology association back in 1997, and it was really a group of presidents, CEOs from the region that got together and said, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could all get together on a regular basis and talk about our issues that we have, and brainstorm ideas. And out of that came what is now Communitech, because they said, you know, we're running our businesses, we can see this as being something much better, much more than it is now. Let's form this technology association to represent the interests of the high-tech industry. So that's what happened. Back in 1997, they formed that. 2 people, I think it was at the time. Today we have about 15 employees and we cover off a variety of different things. There are over 500 local tech firms that we deal with on a regular basis, and 30,000 people in the region. So it's a much bigger community than maybe it looks, and that's what we're finding out every day is there's a lot going on around here. And we're just, for those of you who don't know, we're located in the University of Waterloo R&T Park, which is just across Columbia in the Accelerator building. So offer a number of programs and services. Not all of them will be necessarily relevant to you right now, but as your businesses grow, they will be. So one of the things we do very well is providing a ton of networking opportunities. And we do that through peer-to-peer groups, breakfasts, Entrepreneur Week, special events such as that. We do a lot of advocacy work on behalf of some of the companies in the region. We just did a lot of work with AGFA to help them establish R&D Centre here, and I think there's going to be some news going to be released about that in the near future. Special projects such as digital media, which I'll talk a little bit about in a second. Talent recruitment initiatives, as well as a venture support group, which is what I'm a part of. And right now we have 2 entrepreneurs in residence, of which I'm one. Dan was the other fellow that was on the video there. He's the CEO in residence. I'm the CTO in residence. We just had Ron Newman just recently finished his tenure with Communitech, and he was the CEO of Slipstream when it sold to RIM. And he spent about 18 months with us and moved on, and that's the model of the EIRs at Communitech is you come, you sit yourself down for about 12 to 18 months, maybe up to 2 years. You help out early stage companies. You get involved in the community. You provide connections, and then after that 10-year time, you get back reintegrated into the community, either working with a company that you've been working with, you can continue to work with them, or go and start something on your own. So, not to mention that we tend to be a fairly fun bunch of individuals. So one of the special initiatives which I'm very excited about and have been very involved with is the Digital Media Convergence Center. And this is an initiative that we're working on which will see us set up a convergence center in downtown Kitchener. And what it is it's focusing on digital media and bringing together digital media technologies, not only in the region, but also across the country and across the world. So we're establishing this as an applied research facility where companies can get together with researchers, with entrepreneurs, with funding partners, and focus on commercialization of digital media technologies. And we've put in applications for federal funding. We've put in an application for provincial funding. We hope to get some good news about our federal funding by the end of this month, and we'll get things started off. But this is a pet project of ours, and again, this is sort of the Communitech mandate, is to look at special initiatives to get these things going. The other thing, the Accelerator Center is over in the Accelerator building, and it really came out of what was perceived to be a need to provide an incubator type capability within the Waterloo region. And I use the term incubator lightly because in many cases in the past, incubator has come to get a rather not so nice reputation. But really what the incubator that we're using over there, the Accelerator Center, is a place where early stage companies can come and rent some space in the building. You get access to a lot of funding partners within the building because it really is a clubhouse that we've created over there. And so people can get together around the coffee machine and talk about their issues. They can have special learning opportunities. Most of all, you can just talk to your peers and figure out, where you're at and basically work alongside each other to move your individual businesses forward. Opened about 2 years ago, and there's another building going up across the street to the Accelerator building, and there's going to be another 16,000 square feet of space taken there. So that's going to open up more room for more companies. So something to take in mind. That's may be a very viable way for you or a very viable option for you guys to look at when your businesses grow and you're looking for a place to call home for about 1 to 2 years to build your business. And that's it. So hopefully that was useful. I'd be happy to entertain any questions. I guess I went a little bit over the hour, but anyways, are there any questions or comments or anything of that sort? Everybody wants to get to do their homework. What kind of media are they going to be focusing on? The Waterloo region has a very strong capability in visualization, image capture, collaborative technologies. Excuse me. So that's what we're going to focus on. And so the digital media field is this big. Visualization is this part of it. And obviously we've got a strong mobile capability as well. And one of the things we want to do in the Digital Media Center is set up corporately sponsored labs so that RIM and Christie Digital and whatever can come and install their platforms and give entrepreneurs and applied researchers the ability to deploy their solutions on these platforms, as well as gain access to people from these companies. Again, in an effort to accelerate commercialization efforts. But that's what we found around here. That's really our core capability. But through our networking with different hubs of digital media across Ontario and across Canada, we're going to link up with other centers that have other capabilities in digital media. So when you bring them all together, strong collaborative opportunity, but then you'll be able to tie into those capabilities as well to enrich your solutions. But that's what we're going to be focusing on here. Okay.
More questions?
Oh, back here.
The space that you were talking about, like the new space that's being built, just so I understand, sort of like a temporary headquarters or something until a business can get someplace?
That's the Accelerator Center is intended to be a place where a company resides. So you got some physical space there, and you stay there for as long as you really need to. There's basically a checklist of things that the company needs to satisfy, and at that point, if you satisfied all those criteria, you graduate. And we just had, I guess it was just before Christmas, we had a graduation. That's MyoVision. So MyoVision came in a year and a half or so ago. There were a handful, I think 3 or 4 founders of the company. Within the Accelerator Center, they grew to 25 to 30 employees. They secured some customers. They have revenue. So check, check, check. And now they've physically moved out of the space into their own space in Kitchener and are continuing to grow their business there. So it's really that place where you can get things going without a lot of expense, have access to the mentors that are offered through the Accelerator Center, the Communitech resources, and just give you a sort of a leg up and try to help you establish your business in a very collaborative environment.
And how do you go about getting this space? How do you apply it?
The best thing to do is to go to the Accelerator Center website, and I believe there's a mechanism there that you can apply. And the director of client services over there is a very good friend of mine. And so that's another way is I'll leave some business cards here as well, and you have my contact information there. If you're interested in, I can connect you up, and it's just come in and have a chat with them and figure out what their business model is and see if it aligns with your business model. And if you meet the criteria, one of the criteria is you have to pay rent. You have to have the ability to pay some rent because it's a not-for-profit, the Accelerator Center, but they have to pay their bills as well. So. It's expensive space on a square foot basis or per square foot basis, but all the value that you get out of being there and access to the resources makes it very worthwhile. So it's either to connect up, either check the website, contact me, or contact one of the contacts that are on the website for the Accelerator Center, and they'll be able to set you up. Yeah.
Can anyone go into Communitech, or there's some special thing? And then, is there any activity open to the public?
I don't know. Have you talked to Ian about any special relationship between the Velocity folks and Communitech? And
He did mention that the session, whatever sessions you offer, that the students would be welcome to attend those sessions. So,
that's good.
And the events are normally publicized on the website, but I'll maybe formalize that in an email to firm that up.
Yeah. Yeah. And the venture support group, the sort of the network of mentors and everything, we'll work with member companies, non-member companies. We tend to work with companies that are more local, but we've had companies from Toronto and Ottawa and et cetera come to want to work with us as well. So those services are available to you.
I guess just a note in response to your question.
I actually joined Communitech a couple months ago.
Okay.
It was a free membership option for students. I'm not sure. I was speaking with Angela about it.
Right.
But there are certain ways to get access to that network of resources for students.
So here's your resource right here.
Yeah.
So it looks like, yeah, definitely there's a way to access the Communitech resources and come out to the events. I know the CBET students, for instance, there's a lot of that's part of their core curriculum is to actually attend networking events. And I think it's, you know, they have to do it, but just the same, it's a very good thing to do, and I'd say it would probably be a very worthwhile endeavor for you guys to do as well, even if it's just to create more contacts and figure out what's going on in the community, because it is a fairly close-knit community, and you never know, again, exploiting the partnerships and things of that sort, you never know what your network will turn up for you.
Okay. Great. Kevin, thanks for...
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Talk today. I think it was a good way to end the day to have someone whose experience as Kevin is in a variety of areas to impart his wisdom and show some funny videos too. So, Kevin, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, Sean. Thank you.